Ever thought of trading your house for a tulip bulb? Sounds crazy, right? Well, not for the 17th century Dutch. Picture this, the Netherlands in the 1600s, a time when the love for tulips had blossomed into an outright obsession. This period, often referred to as Tulip Mania, saw the price of tulip bulbs skyrocketing to extraordinary heights. The Dutch, swept up in a tulip frenzy, began trading lands, livestock, and yes, even their homes for these colourful blooms. Now you might be thinking, what's so special about these tulips? Well, they were rare, exotic, and considered the ultimate status symbol. Owning a tulip bulb, especially a rare striped one, was like owning a Lamborghini today. But as with most manias, this one too had an expiry date. The tulip bulb market was in essence a speculative bubble, and just like a bubble, it eventually burst. The prices, which had once reached the heavens, came crashing down to earth, and the market for tulip bulbs collapsed. The consequences were severe. Many investors who had poured their life savings into tulip bulbs were left in financial ruin. There were bankruptcies, lawsuits, and a lot of finger-pointing. The Dutch government had to step in to prevent the economy from sinking further. But here's the twist, the tulip mania wasn't all doom and gloom. It also led to some significant developments in the Dutch economy. It encouraged trade, led to the establishment of formal futures markets, and even paved the way for the modern economic system. So, what's the takeaway from this tulip tale? It's simple. Be it tulip bulbs, housing, or even crypto, speculative bubbles can lead to catastrophic consequences. So, tread carefully when you hear about the next big thing. So, next time you're thinking of investing in something, just remember, it could all end in tulips. Imagine being an Australian soldier in 1932, armed with a machine gun and your enemy, a flightless bird. Now let's set the stage. It's 1932, and Australia is in the throes of an emu plague. That's right, you heard correctly, an emu plague. These large, flightless birds had become a veritable nuisance, damaging crops and wreaking havoc on farmland. So what does the Australian government do? Well, they did what seemed logical at the time. They deployed soldiers armed with machine guns to combat the emus. And thus, the Great Emu War commenced. It sounds like something straight out of a Monty Python sketch, doesn't it? But it's all true. I assure you, the Australian government, in all its wisdom, decided to wage war on a bird. Now you'd think that the emus, being birds and all, would be easy targets for the soldiers, right? But no. These birds were crafty. They proved to be elusive, scattering in every direction, and the soldiers struggled to effectively control the population. It was as if the emus had attended some sort of bird boot camp. They were prepared. The soldiers, despite their firepower, found themselves outmaneuvered by their feathered foes. Despite their best efforts, the emus kept coming back, and the crops kept getting damaged. It got to the point where the government had to admit defeat and call off the operation. The emus had won the war. This event became a humorous example of government spending and intervention. Can you imagine the headlines? Government declares war on birds. Soldiers outwitted by emus. It's almost too absurd to believe, but it happened. And that, my friends, is how you lose a war to a bird. Not exactly a high point in military history, but certainly a good story for a laugh. What could possibly start a war between the United States and Britain? A pig in a garden, of course. Picture this. The year is 1859. We're on the San Juan Islands, a cluster of lush green islands between mainland United States and Canada. The United States and Britain are in a heated dispute over the boundary of these islands. It's a classic case of this land is my land. No, this land is my land. Tensions are high, but so far it's just a war of words until... Enter our unlikely catalyst. A humble pig, a British pig to be precise, happily rooting around in an American farmer's garden. The farmer, Lyman Cutler, likely having a bad day and fed up with the intrusion, does what any reasonable man would do. He shoots the pig. Yes, you heard that right, he shoots the pig. Now, this isn't just any pig. This pig belongs to Charles Griffin, an employee of the Hudson's Bay Company, and he's not happy about his prized porker's untimely demise. He demands compensation from Cutler, but the American refuses to pay the full amount. And just like that, a pig in a garden becomes an international incident. The situation escalates quickly. The British threaten to arrest Cutler, the Americans call in the military, and before you know it, we've got ourselves the Great Pig War. It's a standoff that lasts for several months, with both sides refusing to back down. But here's the twist. Despite all the posturing, no human lives are lost in this war. It's a war where the only casualty is a pig, and the only weapons are words and stubborn pride. Eventually, cooler heads prevail. The conflict is peacefully resolved through arbitration, with the boundary finally agreed upon in 1872. The only victim of the Great Pig War, our unfortunate pig, is remembered as the spark that almost ignited a war between two nations. So remember, if you're ever feeling petty, just think about the time two countries almost went to war over a pig. What if I told you that a stone at the bottom of the ocean could be considered a valid currency? Welcome to the island of Yap. Picture a world where the weight of your wealth is quite literally a heavy burden. On the island of Yap, in the vast Pacific Ocean, this was a reality. The Yapese used massive limestone discs, known as rye stones, as their form of currency. Believe it or not, these gigantic stones could span several meters in diameter. Now that's a hefty wallet. These stone coins weren't exactly pocket change. They were too large to move by hand, and transporting them between islands was a monumental task. But the Yapese had a clever solution. Rather than physically moving these behemoths, they simply agreed on who owned which stone. It didn't matter where the stone was, as long as everyone acknowledged the change in ownership. This brings us to a rather amusing tale. During a particularly challenging transportation operation, one of these rye stones slipped off a boat and sank to the bottom of the ocean. Now, you might think this would be a devastating financial loss, akin to dropping your wallet into a sewer grate. But not for the Yapese. You see, despite its new aquatic address, this sunken stone was still considered valid currency. The Yapese simply agreed that the stone belonged to its intended recipient, and life continued on, business as usual. Sure, it was at the bottom of the sea, but as long as everyone agreed it was there and who it belonged to, it was just as good as if it were on dry land. This unique monetary system underscores the power of communal agreement and trust. It's a testament to the fact that the value of money, whether it be a paper bill, a gold coin, or a giant stone at the bottom of the ocean, is ultimately what we as a society agree it to be. So the next time you lose your wallet, just remember, as long as everyone agrees it exists, you're still rich on Yap.